Today, let's talk about wax melters. So we've been on this candle making journey for quite some time. We've got 3 locations now. We are rocking out candles through wholesale and doing a lot of private label things nowadays. And then, of course, just running our 3 stores and our online shops. So we've used a lot of wax melters. So we're going to go on a little journey. Actually, let's just call it a field trip. Let's go to all 3 of my stores, check out the melters we're using there. You might be surprised about the size that you might actually only need rather than thinking too big to run your candle shop with. So let's go on a field trip. If you stick around on this video to the end, there should be a discount code for you to use if you decide to go with one of the suppliers that we really like. Also, if you really like this video, if you could like and subscribe, that would help us know that you are enjoying it. And so that we'll just keep putting out more content. Here we go. Hey everyone. Okay, so I'm in store number 1 here, and this is where we're going to go over all of the wax melters that we have here at the store before we go on to our other ones. So in this store, we have our very first melter ever, which was our Digiboil. This is a 35-liter Digiboil. It worked great. We still have it. We've been making candles for about 3 years now, and we still have it. It holds 35 liters, which is going to be about 75 pounds of wax. Now, we've never filled it up that much. It's a slender, taller. It would make me nervous filling it up all the way. We usually fill it about halfway to 3/4 there. So we can put in just about a full box once it's completely melted of wax. And that's off of our 45 pounds of soy wax. The nozzle is raised up a little bit. It doesn't quite get to where we would need it to be. So we would need to raise that up if you're not putting it on a table like this, where we're doing it off the side of the table. Now that we've worked with other melters that we prefer more than this one, we still keep this one. This one we actually have out. We're making wax melts with it, right? So wax melt wax and candle wax is going to be different. So we have different melters for those. But this is a really good melter. It's what we started with. It did its purpose. Some of the things that I didn't like about this, I do like that it is digital. It has the digital screen down here. However, it's never accurate. It was always off a few degrees. I think you've probably seen that with a lot of melters out there. People will say that the temperature isn't always what they're setting it out. So keep in mind with any melter, not just this one, but with any melter, that you always want to start with a lower temperature, test it manually with a thermometer, and then increase it to where it's appropriate. Then once you have it set, it's usually always set at that same amount. On this one, it does have a 500 watt and 1,000 watts. So you got to play with the buttons to make sure the right heating element is working for you. We never turn the higher one on. We always have the 500 watt on 1,000 watt one. When we were trying to use that, we thought that maybe it would heat it faster. Didn't necessarily do that. What it will do though on this thing is have some error messages. You're going to get like an E3 error occasionally. And generally, we would only get that when we were putting in the flakes of wax, and it happens when it is melting the wax. There's a lot of wax that's not melted up top still. So it's like it's trying to heat something, like it knows that that it hasn't melted all of it yet, that there's a problem. You'll get an E3 error. Generally, what we'll do is we'll just unplug it all, or we'll unplug it. We will stir it up, knock the wax off the sides, plug it back in, turn it on, and it's fine. This is a good melter. We used it for well over a year as we were starting out, and we still use it today. That's a Digiboil. This is like a $200 melter. This is a insulating sleeve that goes around, because the melter itself is not insulated. That's kind of a downside of it. This is actually made to make brew to brew beer with. So that's what this is actually intended to do. It's not intended to melt candle wax and make candles. We use it for that. That's not what it's intended for. So this is an insulator that you can put on here that whenever you're making beer, part of the process is you may want to do that. So if you buy this melter, I would highly recommend getting the sleeve that goes around it. Now that's an extra cost. So you can get this melter, I think $200 on Amazon, or you can get it from like morebeer.com, I think is their actual website. But then this is another add-on of $25 or $30. For the price point, you're going to see our other melters at the ToAutos that we really enjoy working with now are going to be less than that, and they are insulated. So you're not paying extra for a sleeve like this. Okay. Now, when we first opened our store, this is what we bought. This was our big investment. We thought we were going to need to produce like crazy and have the best melter in the market. We do love this thing. Don't get me wrong. We absolutely love it. This holds 160 pounds of wax. This is the CS Elite from Coogar. And so they are a manufacturer of these big size melters. I know that you've seen some of the other probably YouTube videos of some of these makers that have these really big, large melters. A lot of them are the Coogar brand. So they're not accessible as far as very quick. Obviously something like this, or we even have a ToAuto that we use here at this shop that I'll talk more about in my other video. You can get those in a couple of days, right? A few days tops. Something like this is a 4 to 6 weeks to get this. You're getting it from the company. You're on the phone with them ordering, and they're going to send you a quote, you approve it. So this was about $1,900 after. It was about $1,500 And then we did some of the upgrades. We added on, and I don't know why this is an upgrade, these aluminum legs that go on here. So on the side here, which I'll bring the camera over and show you in just a second, you have to have this off the ground. Unless you're going to have it sitting right off the side of a table, you're going to really have to have this elevated. So that was an extra couple $100 there. Also, since it is so big, the lid that it comes with is just a removable lid. And so it's an upgrade to add on this hydraulic pump that will leave the lid open so that you can put your wax in instead of taking the lid completely off and then trying to fill, because then you're making a mess with whatever from the condensation and probably wax from the underside. That would be a mess. So having the hydraulic pump on the side is definitely something you would want to do if you went with this melter. So all in all, this is like a $1,900 melter. And then it was another $270 for the shipping because it has to come on a semi with a lift gate to drop it down to street level for us. There's a shipping crate charge for the actual crate that it comes in. And it comes in wood. You have to get a hammer and a crowbar to unbox this thing. Super handy. We certainly love it. It's probably even more than what we need though. I mean, it's so big, 170 pounds. If you're making 8-ounce candles, I mean, that's 340 candles, right? If you were to fill this up all the way, not necessarily needed. It's a time thing, right? Because you can use something smaller that, or like the ToAutos that we love and are going to be much smaller. They can be moved around and they're a lot more convenient. And when you need to fill back up with wax, you're not waiting forever for wax to melt. While you're melting wax, you'd be prepping your oils and things like that. So, but we do like it. We just wouldn't buy it again necessarily. It's too big for what we're doing. Now we would love to grow to making that many candles a day where this thing is just cranking out every day, 350 candles, but we're not quite there yet. On the side here, I will show you, I'm going to actually take this with me a little bit here and let you kind of see the side of it here. So the reason why we have it kind of sideways is because where the nozzle is, we don't want that coming off. It is lifted up high enough where a pitcher will fit nicely underneath it. We have our scale underneath there. The on and off is sideways. Pretty nice, pretty industrial melter. And then here you can see where it's set to. So that is for that one there. Again, we have this and all of our other melters on timers. So we're never turning them on and off manual. I'm just going to put this back over here. At the next stop, I will be talking about the ToAuto more. We just brought this one out here to make some more candles at once. So we've got this one working on our coconut soy candles. We have this one doing our normal soy wax candles. And then we have this one here that is doing our wax melt right now. So just because we upgrade melters or change things around, we're still putting them to use. So let's go to store number 2 and I'll show you what we're working with there. Okay, so we're in store number 2 now. The wax melter we use here is the CandleScience 65-pound wax melter. It's great, heavy duty, stainless steel, insulated. The lid here comes off completely. It's a little high for a lot of people. So for some of our team members, we have to have a step stool, which isn't necessarily ideal when you're dealing with heavy wax. Just something to keep in mind compared to some other melters that might not be this tall. It's a very solid melter. We really like it. It has a dual heating element. Depending on how much wax we have, we usually cut one off and not need it. It's going to save energy. It stays consistent with the temperature, which is fantastic. The nozzle is heated as well, so you're not going to get any clogging inside of there. I will say this also is a pretty large spout, which you want whenever you're producing a lot of candles, which we do here at this shop, but it's not necessarily ideal for single pours and things like that because let me show you real quick. You'll kind of hear how powerful it is. So it comes out, there's a lot of pressure because you got a lot of wax pushing down, comes out with a lot of force, which is, good to get the wax out. However, it's going to cause some splashing as well. So something just a little bit to get used to there. It's a fantastic melter. We're glad we have it. This is more ideal than our larger melter in shop 1, just because of the size, also the cost. This is about $1,500 on CandleScience's website. It has great reviews. One other thing to keep in mind though, is if you notice here, how we have this on this table, but then we have this workbench next to it, that's a little bit lower. So if you look and see, it's not off the table very far. If you were to use just one of these small pitchers, you wouldn't be able to get under that spout. That's going to be a problem, getting a pitcher under that spout. So luckily we have these workbenches that are lower. So we're able to do that. And we adjusted it to the point where we can get a large pitcher by just tipping it back a little bit. But that's something that's not necessarily ideal because this thing is heavy, especially when you have all the wax in there. You've got a couple 100 pounds here, most likely. If you're just using one table, You have to elevate this off the ground somehow. I don't know what you would want to elevate that with. That would be a decision you have to make, whether you're going to put blocks under there or a wood. Something to keep in mind is that from where this spout is, it's fantastic melter, but you're probably going to have some kind of 2-level surface or raise this up somehow. However you do that is up to you. Again, this is for if you're producing a lot. This is not necessarily a use at home type of melter. I don't think you need it. I definitely don't think you need to spend the money unless you are producing a lot of candles and want to have that. But it stays very well insulated. I do really like that. So when we shut down at the end of the night and cut the power off, the next morning when we come in, the wax is usually still melted. It's cool. It's not to a pouring temperature, and it's kind of getting that milky coloring to it, but it'll heat up real quick and get right back to pouring temperature. So that's what I like about it. The insulation on this thing is fantastic. So that's my review of this melter. And now we'll go over to store number 3. Okay, so we're in store number 3, and here we use the ToAuto 15 liter. This is our newest store, so this is our newest melter. This one is fantastic. It's got a lot of great features to it. The candles on the side, I greatly appreciate having those. I greatly appreciate how this top is a twist off and on. That's kind of convenient. But my favorite feature about this is for the price and size, it is also insulated, which means when you get up to temp, it's going to cut off the power and stay at that temp for a significant amount of time before it starts to cool off. That's fantastic. With the Digiboil, we have to buy that extra sleeve that kind of goes over, and it covers most of it, but not all of it. Some of the other melters don't have insulation. This one does. So it's very, very accurate with staying where it needs to be temperature-wise. Also, the temperature dial on this one is probably the most reliable of all our melters that have the twist dial. Even with the Digiboil, it had the digital, but that doesn't mean it's more accurate, unfortunately. So with this one, we set it to 190 degrees, and it's going to be within a couple degrees, which is fantastic. We always recommend starting low with temperature and raising it up as you learn how the melter works so you don't scorch your wax. But this one's fantastic. It's done a great job for us. This is a 15 liter, which is going to make about 60 8-ounce candles if we were to fill it all the way max. One other feature about this, if you're just putting in a little bit of wax at a time, what's great about this is this nozzle, but down here is the heating element. This nozzle attaches right at the bottom of the container that holds the wax. So you're going to get most of the wax out of there. Now, we never let it get down that low. We're always refilling it once it gets to probably like a third to the bottom, just to always keep wax available. But it is kind of a nice feature. If you're maximizing all the wax before buying more, this will definitely help you out. Also, this nozzle is really great. Since this is a smaller melter, it doesn't have as much pressure coming out of it. So it doesn't splatter nearly as much as some of our other ones do. You know, the more pressure you have, the wider the nozzle, you're going to have some splashing. Just because of that with any melter. It's not that the nozzles are bad or good. It's just a matter of pressure, of how much is coming out versus the size. So this one is great. I like the lights on it. It tells you if it's heating, insulation, or on standby. I like that it has the really accurate temperature control. This will make 60 candles for us if they were 8 ounces. And that's plenty for this shop and for the production we do here. They also make this in a 10 liter and an 8 liter. The price differences, I don't think is very much. So if you think you're going to be making 20, 30, 40 candles at a time, up to 60, I would probably go with this if the price is within your budget. Whenever I say that this will make 60 8-ounce candles, that's if this thing is filled all the way to the top. So if you're one that would prefer just to have it halfway full, going with a larger size versus the 10 or the 8 might be ideal. This also can move around pretty easy because of the handles on it. I think that's about it. This here with, all these small melters with the nozzle, you've got to be able to get your pictures underneath there. So we just raised it up. This is actually an old table that I had in an apartment. We just took the legs off of it. That's what we use. We have our scale right underneath. You can swap out if we're doing the large picture or a small one. And that's that. So super simple. Setup with this one, again, is lightweight. It's easy to move around. I wasn't sure how it was going to perform because it was so lightweight, but it's been great for us. For $200 or less, it's definitely worth checking out. Hopefully that was helpful. All right, so there you have it. Visit all 3 stores, check out the wax melters we have, and now it's time for you to make a decision. Now, if we were going to start all over again, we would go the ToAuto wax melter for sure. So the price is fantastic, $200-ish. In fact, if you check the description below, there's probably a discount code there. So we had reached out to them and said, hey, can you offer our community any deals? They gave us a discount code. You'll find that below there. That'll save you a little bit more money, get it under $200, hopefully for you. But the features of it is really what sells this thing. Having the nozzle high enough that you can get a picture underneath it is fantastic. The fact that it's insulated is a huge benefit over the Digiboil. That's not that you have to buy that extra sleeve and it still doesn't cover the whole thing. So I would definitely go with the ToAuto. Also, $200 versus the $1,500 or the $2,000 options, this is really the way to go for probably 95% of us candle makers. There's some people that are making thousands of candles a day. Yeah, this one's not going to work for you. But if you're making 100, 200 candles a day, if you needed to, this one's just fine, because while you're working on those candles that you just poured, this thing can be melting enough to make another 60 candles with. So that's my recommendation. If you have any questions, reach out to me, comment below. If you could do us just one little favor, subscribe to our channel, leave a comment below so we know that you enjoyed this, and come join us at Candle Business Pro. You can find us on Facebook. We have a community there, or you can visit us at candlebusinesspro.com, and a bunch of free resources. We have a blog going there, and lots of good things to help you on your candle business journey. So thank you so much for watching. Take care.